Good day, viewers. Welcome to a new edition of 30 Minutes, the interactive program of Trust Television with me, Manir Dan Ali. Our guest is no stranger to this program. I'm talking of Dr. Usman Bugaje, who is a trained pharmacist and has also gone into other areas, including getting a PhD in something completely unrelated to pharmacy. He's also been an activist both locally and internationally. And he is in the studio today because of his recent trip to neighboring Niger Republic, which, as viewers know, has been in the news after the coup that happened sometime last year. And the junta is still sitting pretty after all the talk by ECOWAS to come tough on that country and on any military adventure anywhere in the region. Dr. Usman Bugaje, welcome to the program.
It's my pleasure, Alhaji Manir.
As I did say, you've recently visited Niger Republic. Was it on your own personal volition, or were you encouraged by some interest to come and to go and do some back channels discussions?
No, it was my own personal initiative. But this is also because since the problem started, since the coup of 26th of July, those of us who are activists and who have been used to working together anytime there's a crisis, whether within the country or outside the country, came together and formed a platform where we shared information and we tried to reach out to governments or agents of government so that they can be taking informed decisions, to share that information, to share that perspective. You will recall when I was in the National Assembly, I chaired the Foreign Affairs Committee for some 4 years, and I had the opportunity to interact at that level with a number of institutions, international institutions. We visited our embassies across the globe, and I also, during the time of the Darfur crisis, I organized about 15 African countries at parliamentary level to do what we call African Parliamentarians for Darfur, to engage the parliament in Sudan at that time, at that parliamentary level, to understand exactly what is happening and to remind them of their responsibilities and to work together and see how we can help and support them.
Now, which suggests that you have all the qualification to get into the Niger affair.
I have developed a bit of experience, and I have also developed some skills in doing that. I was also President Obasanjo's envoy to the Sudan between 2000 and I think up to 2003. When I was special advisor political, and that also exposed me to talking to people in conflict. We had to unite the factions in southern Sudan, led by then late Garang. People like Salva Kiir was his deputy. We had long meetings with them. Bona Malwal, so many of them.
Bashar and all of them, yes.
So that kind of experience. So when this Niger coup took place, the first thing we advised was to first find out the circumstances. Because you see, foreign policy is always an extension of, if you like, internal policy. It's a reflection of what is actually happening outside. It's driven by that national interest, if you like, because governments are always operating within a context. They don't exist in an ideal environment. And because of that, the first thing we'd have done is to say, okay, what were the situational problems that led to that particular coup? And our intelligence agencies are supposed to keep a tab on all countries whether they're in conflict or they're in peace, so that that data and information that we require. And I expected that when such a thing happens, our government and other ECOWAS member states should immediately call for the files of that country, and the experts in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or in our own case, both Foreign Affairs and the National Intelligence Agency, and other related intelligence sources should be able to file a report. And
are you suggesting that there is some failure of intelligence or a misreading of the coup by Nigeria and ECOWAS?
Well, perhaps more than that. Even if they have gotten the intelligence right, I think the interpretation of the intelligence by the executive arm of government is sometimes a problem. I've had the pleasure, I've had the privilege, if you like, of having been both in the executive arm and later on in the legislative arm, and I have an idea of the gaps that sometimes exists. And what I mean is generally the intelligence people might be able to source correct intelligence and offer it, to the executive arm. And sometimes the executive arm may not be able to weigh or to get the real weight, of issues or the processes.
A lot of people were surprised at the initial ECOWAS position when they came out of their initial meeting talking about use of military force. It sort of froze a lot of people, and it raised a lot of concern that it appeared that the situation wasn't very well read.
It's more than that, Manir. Yes, maybe the reading, they have not read the situation very well. But also, remember, this coup was essentially not against Bazoum. And this is why we need to understand. It's essentially against France, right? Bazoum may have his own failings, but the real spirit of the coup is not so much of Bazoum like France itself. Remember, it got to a point where the Minister of Mines in Niger cannot visit the uranium mines in Niger without French permission. It got to that point.
So there's a lot of built-up tension
exactly.
against France.
And they have been raising these issues. Their civil society have raising these issues. Their academics have been raising these issues. Politicians have been trying to manage it because they are so endeared and they are so dependent on France that some of them do not have the courage to really face France and stop some of these things. And so, because Niger is one of the richest countries in Africa. But of
that
course,
is in terms of potential.
Exactly, but it's the poorest, or one of the poorest. And these contradictions are simply because France has literally taken over their wealth. And they only released to them that bit, that can keep them alive. And this is what they have been, complaining. So it's a coup of liberation. Now, fine, we want democracy to thrive because we think it's more sustainable, right? And it allows people to have the freedom to express their views, to make their choices. But we also have to remember, for you to champion democracy, you also have to have the credibility to do so. And so when you have people like Alassane Ouattara, you have people like Macky Sall, who is in some deep trouble. I have not read the papers this morning in terms of
the Senegalese
in
drama about
and these are the people, especially Alassane, who has been like at the forefront of pushing for these things. And in any case, when another dimension to it, when Nigeria cuts an electricity contract that is supposed to be independent of ECOWAS, this is a bilateral, then you start thinking, okay, this is more than ECOWAS. So what is the problem with Nigeria with this thing? Then the idea of French influence in our foreign policy comes in. And you can begin to see the reading or the hands of France in what is happening.
And now you have a Nigerian president who is more at home in France than in the former colonial British.
The way the French presidents will summon African leaders of the Francophone to France. This is what is happening to us today. I mean,
there is no evidence of that. It's just that maybe our president happens to have a home in France and has some business relations and friends.
Very good journalist balancing, Manir. Very good. But you see, he went to France after the elections, after they announced his victory at the polls. I think, if my count is correct, 3 times before he even took the oath of office. I mean, people are watching. And his associates, the Chagouris, are French citizens, and they are well connected, and they are all part of this. So you can see the French influence in our own foreign policy.
But there's also a lot of propaganda about this matter. You see that the Nigerians are using a lot of it, especially in the social media, to paint this very terrible picture of France and what have you. Yes, there is some basis for it, but there is so much misinformation and propaganda going on in the social media about this matter.
Well, this is why I think we need to visit Niger.
And you've just done that.
I've just done that.
So we would like to know, what's your take? Having done that, having gone up close and almost personal.
Well, as you know, I went by road because there is no air travel.
You happen to come from the border region with
unless I go to France and then fly. No, I can't even fly if I go to France. Maybe I go to UK or some neutral country like Turkey and then fly into Niger.
So tell us about the road journey. How did you, through which route, and were you welcome? Because
I'm from GBA local government, which borders, Niger. And as you know, border communities, half of the people on both sides of the borders are actually the same relatives, they marry, they intermarry. So the person who actually I asked to accompany me and to guide me through, he has his home and wife in Jibia town, and he has another home and wife and children in Isa, which is in Niger. And there are quite a number of people like that.
Yes.
That's his business. His farms, he has part of his farms in Nigeria, part of his farmland in Niger. And his father actually died in Zendar. He was a merchant, And for them, these borders are absolutely artificial. And we all know how these borders were drawn.
What was your reception in Niamey? Did you manage to meet anybody in some official position, like the Prime Minister, or were you able to even...
I've met people at the highest level, but I would not want to discuss that here. But I have met people in the civil society, people from the universities, people from the ulama, people who are religious scholars, who are imams of big Jumu'ah mosques. I have met, women groups. I have met bureaucrats. One of them is an advisor to the minister, one of the ministers. I don't want to say specifically which ministry. And we have had long discussions. And, I went to the markets in Maradi and in Niamey itself, just to see for myself what goods are there and the prices. I went to the pharmacy stores to see what medicines are available. I caught cold, so I myself bought some Augmentin from one of the pharmacy stores. And I went to the, I went incognito. Of course, you wouldn't know if I was not. I look like any Nigerian,
yes.
And therefore we interacted. And you see, the sense I have is that people in Niger are very, very, very happy with this coup. It's a popular coup. It symbolizes the aspirations of these people. And they were beginning to get tired of their politicians. Just like we are tired of our own politicians, who for the last 25 years have not solved one single problem, Manir.
That's including yourself, since you are there at one point.
I don't see myself as a politician. I'm in politics. And I always make the distinction. I'm in politics. I've never shied away from saying that. And I'll remain in politics for as long as I find that necessary, right? But I really don't see myself as a politician, because when you say you're a politician, it comes with that character of a politician, ready to tell lies, ready to cheat, ready to steal, shamelessness, and so many other things that have become the hallmark of our politicians. I don't want to be part of that, because I'm not.
So back to the Nigerian politicians, you are saying that it's as if the rest of the Nigerian society feels that they've been let down.
Yeah, about the road. You know, there are roads. Look at this border from Maiduguri down to Sokoto. Look at this long
over 1,000 kilometers.
And most of it are farms. There are just few roads. I mean, closest to me, of course, from Katsina is Maradi, but there is Madarumfa. And that is the one in Kongolam, where I can go through to Zinder, that's Damagaram. There are so many other options. And people still relate to each other. They go over for marriages, they come for condolences, and so there are, if you like, unofficial routes that are available for routine engagement. So I use those routes that are well known, and they are.
It's not the Nadeko route, as they say, when Nigerians were sneaking out under President Abacha. If you don't mind, we'll resume more in details on Niger after this short break. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it is 30 Minutes, the interactive program of Trust Television, and our guest today is Dr. Usman Bugaje, who is fresh from the Republic of Niger. So, Dr. Bugaje, you were mentioning the fact that Nigerians are fed up with their politicians. They welcome the coup, and of course the junta itself is milking that nationalist favor for all it is worth and is digging in. What do you think could be the way out of the problem now? Because Niger, alongside Mali and Burkina Faso, have quit ECOWAS. They formed their own alliance of Sahel, and ECOWAS appears to be lost as to what to do next in order to bring things back in check.
Well, ECOWAS had a meeting on the 8th of this month, if you recall, and they issued out some statements, of course without the 3 states that have gone. And there are a few states missing. When I looked at the list, I'm not sure how many they are. I'm not sure I've seen Guinea. Benin was there, quite okay. But the point is, ECOWAS right from the beginning, I think, miscalculated. And like I said, there are reasons to suspect that there is a lot of overwhelming French influence in our foreign policy. Because, you see, it's not just the engagement after coups. We have had coups before. The engagement are usually to sit down and say, hey, wait a minute. Yes, you have your own sovereignty, and therefore it's an internal affairs. But there are certain peer review and standards that we need to ensure we keep, between ourselves. We are committed to certain standards, of governance that we must not, So how do we restore that order, right? You negotiate. You put pressure, right? You negotiate. But the way this particular one was done to Niger was not the way that ECOWAS treated other coups, all within the range of time that this particular thing happened. So people have reason to suspect that there is more than just the ECOWAS interest in this matter, but particularly the fact that Nigeria cut electricity, which is a bilateral thing, it's not an ECOWAS affair. And remember, between, I think, is it Cote d'Ivoire and Mali, there is an arrangement similar, which has not been affected. Yes. I think even between Ukraine and Russia, there is some gas arrangement which has not been affected by the war. So really, this is in breach of, if you like, the international practices. Right?
Is it your sense when you visited Niger that...
let me land on this point. You see, so later on, they blocked the borders, and they blocked food and medicine. Now, when you cut electricity, you block borders, you block food and medicine, it's almost a declaration of war. And this threat to invade, at a time when some of us know, and the Nigerians are just laughing at us, that we don't even have the fight in the army to invade Niger. Look at that border. Where do we have the army to do that? So our people, the executive, either have not been informed properly, or they've been informed, they've ignored the information the intelligence and the professional bodies have given them, and they've gone out to make these wild statements, most likely under the instigation, of France and probably the United States.
Probably it could be also the inexperience, because they are just fresh on the seat of government after the election, so they didn't have maybe all the...
The social media says Lagos boys they know everything, right? So maybe this is the arrogance that they came with, and they think and they don't consult. Whatever it is, Manir, I want us to see that as a country in Nigeria, we have violated the norms. We have done things that are far beyond the ECOWAS brief. And that has created a lot of, if you like, reaction, negative reaction from Niger. Niger are taking these things with a lot of humility and decorum. And they are still saying, despite what you people have done to us, we still see Nigerians as our brothers. We still see these colonial boundaries as artificial. We don't see them as barriers.
I actually wanted to ask that, is it your sense that the Nigerians, especially the ordinary people, the man in the street, they don't have any anger against the people of Nigeria?
No, they don't.
Given the circumstances, given the hardship
like I said,
that
I went to
endure.
Restaurants to eat, I went to the market,
but without declaring that you are from Nigeria.
No. I mean, a lot of the people, because I had people to guide me, right?
Yes.
I mean, these are Nigerians, and they are known as Nigerians, and they have their connections, and people came to greet me with a lot of respect. Some, in fact, visited me in the hotel, I lodged, with a lot of respect. And they did say that we understand that this is government, and we suspect your government is under French influence. Otherwise, you wouldn't do this to us.
So the people-to-people relation isn't affected?
No. I would say it's not, but it can be affected if we continue to be, if you like, if we continue to lay back and allow our country to mess us up, in terms of our relationship with our borders.
Then what do you see as the way out? Because both sides appear to be dug in. Just this past few days, there was an interview by Mr. Tijani, that's the head of the military junta, where he's talking of the Nigerian president, that he's the one that looks more like a ghost than him. It's not the kind of language you'll expect presidents or heads of governments to be exchanging.
But remember the language of the foreign minister. It wasn't nice either. It was condescending. And so they are basically reacting, because these are reciprocal kind of reactions,
They've gone to the extent of reminding Nigerians that, look, we are there to help you during your civil war. If not because of us, if not because of Niger, they say maybe there wouldn't be Nigeria today. Because
Niger was the only window. Remember, we had Cameroon on this side, we had Benin on this side.
And they are all on the Biafran side.
And they were all friends. France was on the side of Biafra.
And Niger, in spite of being France at that time.
Exactly. Hamani Diori, refused to do what the French wanted him to do. And he did what he thought he owed, his duty to his neighbor, to his neighbors. And that was how we were able to sail through, and get us where we are. They are right. And remember, if they wanted, they can dam the River Niger. River Niger, flows in that, and then we would have no water. That would call River Niger here. If they wanted, they can do that. The point, I think, Manir, is, let me summarize because we don't have time. One, I think in terms of people-to-people relationship, we are still not in that crisis level. But we need to de-escalate, and we need to show empathy to our brothers. And I think what we need to do is to do some people's diplomacy, not the government diplomacy. And that was the kind of thing I tried doing. I visited them, I sat down with them, I listened to them, and I understood things that people who have just been reading, may not be able to understand. And I have prepared a report, and I'm sharing this information to those that I think can reach to government, so that the government can have a perspective other than whatever other report they were getting. That's one. Two, I think it's important that we realize that our country, Nigeria, has gone beyond the ECOWAS brief. And I think they need to address this, even if they have been instigated by France or not, or if they have done that as a misstep or not. I think they need to address the issue of energy.
Reconnect Niger back according to the bilateral agreement.
They need to revisit the issue of energy. They need to open the borders. They need to allow medicines and food, to flow like they have always been. Because without this, then you are basically breaking down communication, right? And the other thing that I think we need to do is basically to look at, because the ECOWAS meeting on the 8th was arguing that according to the 1993 ECOWAS Treaty, Article 91, states that want to pull out have to give 1 year notice. And therefore they are now asking these three countries that have withdrawn to reconsider based on that. But they also need to realize in what they did, they do not quite comply with the ECOWAS Treaty of 1993. So
that will be a very good point to end this, except if you can summarize in just 20 seconds.
So what we want is that we need Niger as much as Niger needs us. Nobody wants to have a hostile neighbor. And this issue of democracy, we are all suffering from democracy. I mean, they have realized that their democracy is not working. Right now, our democracy is not working. So I think we need to review our democracy. We need to, reinvent it, customize it to serve our needs. We should not be using foreign models that may have worked elsewhere, ignoring our social cultural environment, ignoring our values, ignoring our future together as African states with long history. Thank you,
Dr. Usman Bugaje, for making the point so eloquently.
Thank you. My
Viewers, that's the end of this edition of 30 Minutes. Keep at it with us.